There we go. We on? Yep. Okay. Hi guys. Hope everyone is having a great week. I am here at Hive HQ, and today I'm joined by Margaret, who is currently.
Hello, everyone.
Margaret is currently in France. So if there's any bounce on the connection or anything, it's not like she's sat next door to me. So we'll get that in there straight off the bat. Those of you that have watched the APA roundtables will be familiar with Margaret already. Those of you that haven't seen those yet, why not? Go check them out because they are fun. But Margaret, why don't you give people a bit of an introduction to the wonderful world of Margaret?
So my wonderful world is, well, I was raised in international context and an American school in Paris. So I was raised in Paris, and really my upbringing was in a very multicultural environment. So my work as an intercultural coach and as a counselor, integrative counselor, is really based on the life and death drive. So any changes, life transitions that happen in your life. So this is based on the end of something and the beginning of something else. So that could mean loss and grief, of course, expatriation, repatriation, career change, separation, divorce, any tough life transitions you may be going through, but also any positive life transitions that could be tough and challenging, even though they are positive, just like getting married is still a huge life transition. Having kids, a retirement as well could be seen as loss, could be positive or negative, depending on how you feel about it. So any really proper life transitions. And for now, I'm living in France. I may be moving back to London next year. And my work is really based in Paris and London. So I work between these two capitals, and I give talks in English and French, obviously, in Paris and London mainly. So
that background, and as some of us will already know, you were also schooled on an international platform.
Yeah.
Which gives a very, very dynamic kind of starting point, really.
Yeah.
And I think, my personal kind of thoughts on international schooling is it invariably opens up the mind in a way that most education systems haven't been able to tap into.
Sure, I realized that later on because I was in that international school right from kindergarten, and until the international baccalaureate. So I did all my studies there, and all my friends were from all over the world, really. And that was absolutely fantastic because I had friends from different backgrounds, religions. That was not an issue at all, and especially in France is very interesting because it's kind of multicultural compared with the UK, England, and definitely compared with London, which is very, very multicultural. It's not as multicultural in Paris. There is a diversity, but it's not to the same extent. So international school and mine was the first one actually in France at the time, which was named École Active Bilingue at the time, so bilingual school and international school. And that was the very first one created in France. And the director, Janine Manuel, was really passionate about diversity and the plasticity of the brain, and giving the opportunity for toddlers really to get this plasticity of the brain and have this open-mindedness. And we were giving lots of opportunities there, watching movies. All my education was in English and French. So I had all disciplines in both languages. And actually I learned faster English than French when I was, so it was quite funny. There are things in my mind sometimes it's blurry because I don't know if I speak in English or in French at times. It's really weird, but we all have that when we are attending an international school as a scholar. Apparently I was told that I could learn the colors in English way faster than in French. I don't know why. So it's really interesting how the brain works and how you adapt to your environment.
I guess that gives you a launch pad to that kind of mindset, and a huge amount of flexibility, which, you know, I've worked with you on various different coaching elements over the last sort of 7-8 months, and I know how your flexibility plays. But for a lot of professionals, that flexibility only comes with experience in the room, and
Sure.
that skill set is something that we know, certainly among our membership, that people actually really do hold on to when they're working with people. And I think it's fabulous. The earlier we can get that mindset into people, the better.
I would really highly recommend it to any parents who have the financial possibilities as well, because it's usually a bit more expensive. They have the possibility to do so for their kids, and sometimes there are helps that support, financial support that can be given. I know that because a friend of mine at the time wasn't from a wealthy family, so it is possible. And if you can, it's really great. I think I'm really glad my parents did that for me. Really, it is great, because the only issue I will say is that you found out about racism really, really late. For me, apart from World War II, and because my grandfather was a resistant, so I was also immersed in the Jewish community right from my birth, thanks to my family, because my grandfather was a resistant and really helped many Jewish families. But apart from the Holocaust, or the Shoah, as it is called, I really found out about racism on an everyday basis after school. So I was about 18 years old, because that's something which didn't exist in my environment. My parents had friends from Lebanon, from Israeli, from the US, from whatsoever. It really didn't matter, and from different religions. It wasn't an issue for us. And I found out later on that it could be an issue for other people. So you're kind of, it's fantastic for the brain. It's absolutely amazing, because I feel very diverse. I feel very international. But once you're out of the international environment, then you realize how it is for people who are not that international. Yeah, exactly. And that could be a shock as well.
Yeah, and I suppose for a lot of people, they don't see the flip side, where that international mindset, that flexibility, that acceptance, that human element of individuals can play out. And
it's done and well understood.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the international school system is something that most parents don't even think about when they're choosing an education system, and I think it's something that mainstream education can learn a huge amount from.
Yeah, I agree.
But you know, it's above my pay grade. You know, apparently I wasn't wanted this time round, but you know, I don't want the job. Okay, I don't want to go down that road. So you have just produced one of the peer CPD videos on the APA platform. I think that presentation is absolutely fabulous, I have to say. And you know, it's something that when I watch somebody's work who I've worked with and who I already admire because of the work that they do, it's difficult to watch and be impartial and go, okay, now I've got to look at this as though I don't know anything else other than what's coming through the screen.
Yeah,
And when
I
I
understand. Mm.
and when I go through that process, watching your CPD, I was blown away. I really
Oh,
was.
oh, wow.
And
Thank you.
but I know that there aren't that many people that have seen your presentation yet.
Yeah.
So yes, I've seen it. Yes, I think it's great. But why don't you tell people what that's about?
First of all, if you would like to have a glimpse of it, there is a trailer on my website, a teaser on my website, and you can find it on NAA Open Group as well, APA Open Group. So you can scroll down. I'm going to post it again, but you can
Yeah, and
scroll
we'll
down and
put
you
a
will
link
find it.
when we put the video up. We'll put a link to the website and a link to the CPD platform. So
Actually, people could get an overview of it, and then if they like the teaser, obviously you can get to the CPD, which is definitely more detailed. So why loss and grief? First of all, I suffered myself from loss of grief from a very young age and several times in my life, and I had to process my feelings, and it took me quite a long time to do so because I was in charge of my mother as a single child at the time. And I was really, that cancer and loss and grief were two topics I was passionate about since my teenage years. And my father died of cancer, lung cancer, in my early 20s, and he fought for 5 years, which was quite a miracle because he had a 3-month prognosis at the time. And I lost many other members of my family to cancer. So my mother is the only survivor of cancer and the only member left of my family now. That's the reason why I decided to be trained as a therapist in London, WPA therapy. And that was really the start. Then, of course, I realized many other things and developed my skills in different ways. But that was really the start of the, and my mother's sickness as well. That was really the start of my training. And I worked with Marie Curie Cancer Care to help emotionally and psychologically terminally ill people die in the comfort of their homes. Mm-hmm. And I was also a member of a psychological support group at the NHS at the time. I don't know if it does exist, if it still exists, but at the time it was something new. And I was helping cancer-stricken patients emotionally as well. And then I learned a lot about Kubler-Ross model, of course, but many other models that are very interesting as well. There are different theories that I do explain in the video. And I explain not only the theories on loss and grief, there are many of them, but the reason why grief could be complicated. Mine was complicated by my father because it took me years actually to realize I had to process these feelings. So it's really important, as I said several times during my talk, that you have to go through the feelings, even though they are excruciating and it's extremely painful to do so. But if you don't do so, if you're in denial, if you deny yourself the right to feel this pain, then it gets very complicated and it comes back at you years later. So I explain why, I explain the reasons why it could be complicated. I explain the external factors and the internal factors. So the internal factors are anything based on your history, your attachment bonds. So I do explain the attachment theory as well by Bowlby and Swarth. I do explain all the different roots of your own attachment and your own personal history. Of course, it's something quite general. Then it has to be adapted to each one of you depending on what you're going through, your own personal attachment theory, your own personal story. So it has to be person-centered, but there's still a general overview that is available for everyone.
Yeah, what I think I took away instantly was this is something this is an information gold mine in preparation for how this process works, rather than I'm going through this, what do I need to know? And it does kind of give you a sense of it's okay for this process to happen, and by allowing that to happen, and hand on heart, I have taken tips and tricks that you have given and worked those with clients that I know are approaching that phase themselves, and looking at how they are going to prepare for when that final grief moment hits.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You know, that grief, like you said before, grief and loss doesn't necessarily mean end of life.
No.
And that's something that I think a lot of people are struggle with.
Yeah.
Because if they understood loss and grief in its truest form and work through that process and the frameworks that you outline, then when they get to a moment where it is end of life, they've got experience of dealing with that emotional roller coaster.
To be honest, when it happens, you feel it's the end of life. You feel it's the end of your life. Your heart keeps beating, but you don't want to. When my father died at home, and really, even though he was suffering from cancer for 5 years, 5 years is actually usually a kind of line. If you're able to cross this line, you might feel better. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case for him. But you wake up every morning hoping your loved one, in my case, my father at the time, would be alive. So it's really draining on you. It's really tough on you when the person is alive, but you get used to it. You have a different way of life, but you adapt to it. The person is still alive. The person is still with you. And all of a sudden, when the person dies, for you, even though the person was sick, because so many times people say, well, at least you knew he was sick. Well, it's not enough. Even if I knew he was still alive, you cannot know what death is unless you have an experience. People really need, the entourage really need to understand how to facilitate the grief of the people they love as well. It's not only the job of the griever, it's also the job of the entourage, really to feel compassionate about it, because there are so many things to hear that actually worsen your grief, which is already quite hard to handle. So you feel it's the end of the world, but it's actually going through this feeling, it's processing your feeling. You will feel it. I cannot say otherwise. You will feel it's the end of the world, but you're going to learn gradually how to live with it, how to live with the absence of the loved one. Because what is really hard to handle on an everyday basis is not the death of the loved one, it's the absence of the loved one on an everyday basis. You feel your loved one is going to come back home. You feel if you live abroad, if you're an expat and you're a bit older and you're an expat, but you lose a loved one in your home country or another country, then the distance makes it really hard as well to accept it, because you could be in denial. Because geographically, you feel the person is just traveling or is just away, while the person is really dead. It's really about how to be able to cope with all these different factors, external and internal factors, and how to live with it on an everyday basis. It's really about learning to live with it.
I think one of the things that kind of strikes me is that learning to live with it is something that a lot of people and a lot of clients in our world, and bearing in mind I'm just a coach, so I'm not kind of casting aspersions on the other professionals in the sector, but when we have clients that are going through that, a lot of the time they tend to feel, well, time will heal that and I will get there, however long that takes. And there's almost a I don't want to speed that up. I don't want to get through this any quicker than Mother Nature is going to let me. Because there's almost a sense of, I'm supposed to feel this. This is the way this is supposed to go. And I can remember years ago speaking to other professionals on this, and that conversation coming up and saying, well, actually, that timeline is only dependent on your experience before that moment starts.
Exactly. On a lot, actually. It depends as well on the first loss you faced. Really, it could be the loss of a pet. It could be the very first loss you faced when you were a kid or a teenager. The very first one is gonna mark you in a way, and the way you're gonna respond to all the losses later on is gonna trigger the very first loss you suffered from. And that's, if it hasn't been really worked on at the time, then the consequences may be harder later on, even though the loss could be different. And may I remind everyone one thing: loss is not only about a loved one, and that's something I do explain as well in the video. Loss is also of a pet. That could be, if you feel that your pet is a member of the family, that could be excruciating. This could be the loss of a job, the loss of a country. Expatriation for some is actually the loss of habits, loss of family, loss. So that is a loss as well. Loss of country. If the country is at war and you have to survive and move abroad, it's another form of loss. Retirement could be a form of loss as well, because you have to experience a different way of living, which maybe not be one you were expecting. Usually it's really about the gap. If something doesn't live up to expectations, and there is a wide gap between your expectations and the reality, then it's called a loss in a way. And that's something
and within Hive Group, when we're working with veterans and their family member, we see that all the time. And loss comes up 99.9% of the time as a point of a hurdle for a lot of these families, because not only has that service member lost their network, their environment, their work, and in a lot of cases that results in a loss of self-worth, of self-confidence, of self-belief, and all of those losses are mounting up. And unless somebody gets in there and says, do you know what? You don't have to let Mother Nature rule the timeline here. You can get through this, and it's gonna take some support, and it's gonna take some hard conversations.
Absolutely.
But the value of those conversations is, in essence, to coin something that was talked about many years ago, it's almost like this is the deposit in your own emotional bank account.
Absolutely. And what I say as well in the video, and it's really important to remember as well, even if you feel stuck in the way you grieve, stuck because you feel homesick, stuck because you feel depressed, stuck because of a lack of identity that you may feel you're losing. I'm thinking about many expats. The thing is, as long as you're willing to work on your feelings, as long as you're willing to understand the roots of your feelings or of repetitive patterns in your life, there is something good will happen, because you will realize, you will work on all these different feelings, all these different processes that you have to go through. Things are not carved in stone, and that's something I really want to insist on, because most clients I have, either in coaching or in counseling, they're always afraid that they are going to be stuck for life, and things are carved in stone. Even when I talk about the attachment theory, especially in loss and grief, when I talk about it, people are like, oh, but if it's my attachment bond, then there is no way out. Well, actually, yes, there is. There is always a way out. There is always another option.
The brain has a
Work on it.
phenomenal capacity to give us those avenues. And
Yeah.
you know, we've said in previous conversations, I'm sure it's come up in round tables, that all of the answers that we need, we already have them.
Yeah.
And it's almost as though the brain has gone, I'm going to put this here for safekeeping for when you need it. And then we forget where we've looked it away. And it sometimes takes a counselor, a psychotherapist,
Exactly.
or even a coach. Yes,
coach,
guys,
yeah,
you have a role to play here too. At going, let's look for where you put this stuff.
And I shall add to this that actually coaching and counseling, because I do both, is simply the approaches are very different. As a coach, we set goals, we set definite goals with the client, and we act as an intermediate to facilitate the self-awareness of the client, practically and emotionally, in my case emotionally a lot, of course, to reach his goals. So it's the here and now in order to reach his goals in the future. Counseling and therapy, in my case, I had a psychodynamic training and I have an integrative approach. So it could be humanistic, self-centered, cognitive at times, if needs be. And it's all about really assessing the dynamics in the here and now. So the client's dynamics towards his internal world and the external world as well. So it's assessing all the dynamics in the here and now, and gradually assessing the repetitive pattern, and gradually getting to the roots, getting to the bottom of these issues and this repetitive pattern. So indeed, childhood to your experiences, your first experiences on many different points when you were a kid, your child, or even a baby. So the work is totally different. That's the reason I do explain that, and I insist on that in the very first session. And I don't mix both with one client. If the client, after coaching sessions, usually is between 5 to 10, wants to do therapy, then it's fine. But I will never in one session, or if the client has decided to go for coaching, I will not go for therapy. It's really what the client wants and needs right now, and how we're going to do that together.
Yeah, and I think we look at coaching very much the same way. Is whatever brought you into the room at that moment, this is about moving forward and not tripping over what is already behind you. And
exactly, that's coaching. Yeah, absolutely.
And I have always, I found out when I became a coach that I'd probably been coaching all my life.
Yeah, but I think when we do this job, it's actually, we have had experiences when we had to move forward, whatever the issues were at the time, we had to. And I think, and that's the reason why I've become a coach as well. I'm really immensely grateful to my therapist who helped me understand many of my patterns due to my childhood, based on my childhood. But my way of thinking, most probably due to my bringing in American school as well, is that really is moving forward. So the reason why my grief took me really long is that I kept trying to move forward without processing my feelings. So that's something wrong as well. That's the reason why at times you need both a coach and therapist as well, or a coach who is able to understand how to process your feelings without crossing boundaries of the therapeutic.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Is having a professional who has the self-awareness to say, no, I'm not going across that line here.
Exactly. It's crucial. It's crucial for the well-being of the client and of the professional, actually. Boundaries have to be respected by the professional and the client. They are different in coaching and in therapy or counseling. They're totally different. So the professional who does both has to be really aware of both. And I'm very clear on that with my clients, because it's way too easy otherwise for the client to say, well, I'm going to do coaching today. Well, no way.
No. no.
It's not going to work like that.
And you picked up a point when you that kind of stuck with me, and I know it's been said before, but it's that getting to the root of what is behind you, and if you're not clear of what is in those bags, if you like, that you are carrying, they will inevitably trip you over.
That's exactly what I think. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's why when we do the package to support veterans and their families, it became known as Bitimo. Bag it, tag it, move on. Because it is that sense that whatever is in those bags, you need to identify.
I totally agree.
You need to know what that stuff is.
It's crucial. And there are things we are not aware of. There are things we are really, that the unconscious is the reason why it's interesting to work in counseling and therapy. It's the unconscious, and they're talking about my own therapy without being specific, of course. There are things I did realize, thanks to my therapist, that I was really strongly against when she told me at the beginning, when what she tried to trigger that in me. I did feel it, I did sense it, but I was totally against, and actually it took me a bit of a while. But then I realized that she was absolutely right, and wow, I felt free after that. It was tough. It was really tough to understand the roots, but it was liberating.
It's that aha moment. That
exactly.
kind of bang.
Which doesn't mean it's not tough. It's really tough, because then you realize so many things all of a sudden. It's wow. It's a lot to handle. But if you're well assisted by your therapist, it's really it's liberating, really calming.
Yeah, and it's that empowerment. It brings everything else into focus, and it allows you to contextualize. It allows you to focus. It's a phenomenal power that a professional has.
Phenomenal. It helped me so much, really. And I will not have the boundaries I have today, and I will not have the goals I have in mind today without the therapy I went through.
Yeah, and that brings us kind of right up to today. It brings us up to APA. You are a core member of the team, and
I'm happy about it.
Are we? But APA is so new, and we know that we are being observed, we are being watched, and people are paying attention to what we're doing. We have made some pretty major changes in the way that we approach the sector and the way that we are looking to work.
Yeah.
But for anyone who is watching this who isn't already a member, and we know that there will be more that aren't members than that are members, what would you say to them as to why APA stood out for you, and why you wanted to get involved to the level that you are now connected with us?
There are many different reasons. The very first contact was with Sheldon, and I really loved our first conversation. It was absolutely fantastic, and I wanted to become a member, accredited member, and I had a talk with you afterwards, which I really loved as well. It was very mind-challenging, very interesting. And then I wanted to be part of the core team because not only of the benefits that you can, of course, read and find out in the RPA's group, but also because there are specific things that I have been working on, which are true changes in the therapeutic and coaching communities. First of all, I like the fact that there is the coaching aspect and the therapeutic aspect, and both can be aligned and can work together. So that's something, of course, I believe in, because that's what I do. So that's something very rare, and most of the time they are felt as opposite. are totally different, and actually there are things that can really be complementary to both disciplines. So that's something I really like about. The other point is, unfortunately, in a way, due to Chauvin's cancer experiences, it's fascinating to see how you can not only survive a horrendous challenge in your life, but bring something good out of it and helping others. And definitely the Benevolent Fund, for instance, which is something completely new. And I think it's great for all therapists who, unfortunately, at some time in their life, they have to go through a rough patch. Could be mentally, could be physically, could be emotionally, could be the loss, could be being disabled, could be the kid, could be whatsoever, but they will have a way to survive this financially. And I think it's really, really important as well, because us private practitioners, and we are not necessarily all supported by our spouse or our family or whatsoever. And even if we are, it's really good to feel we have the freedom, the choice, and we could be helped and supported financially. The other point is the latest program actually that was created for companies, and I think mental health in companies has to be promoted, supported, and recognized. And that's a huge, huge work that has to be done. And APA is offering that as well. Then the boundaries, of course, which is absolutely crucial, as I said, not only in the therapeutic world, which makes sense, but also in the coaching community. We don't talk a lot about it, but it's really crucial in the coaching community as well. They are simply different. So it's to make people understand the differences and how they are complementary, and how it is crucial to stick to these boundaries. It's about also the international development, of course, as I'm international myself, or feel international. It's really crucial for me to have a company that is not only UK based. Of course, it's UK based, and as I said, I feel very much British, and I lived in London for over 10 years, and I moved to Paris about 3 years ago, but I'm about to move back to London, which I feel England is really my home. So it's not about the fact that it's UK based. It's because it grows further than that. It's all about diversity. It's all about understanding other cultures as well, and how the therapeutic community works in other countries. For instance, in France, it's very different. The way psychoanalysis is seen, for instance, in France is very different from England. The way it is in Belgium, for instance, you cannot promote your services publicly. Well, there are kind of, it's not that simple, but it's an overview. Well, you can in England, and actually you have to, you should do so in England.
Yeah, you can't survive if you don't.
It's a business. It's seen as a business, which is good. And a French psychologist, I'm supporting French psychologists living in England, Birmingham, London, and other cities, because for them it's really hard to understand that it's also a business, that actually you're a private practitioner and you have to promote yourself according to the therapeutic boundaries, of course. So all of that is part of the APA, and for me, it's actually, I felt a natural bond to APA straight away, and that's the reason why I thought it was so mind-boggling, that it was challenging. Yeah, we're going to change many things, but in a positive way, in my view, and something that has not to be seen as opposite or something weird because it's new, but something which is complementary. And I do really insist on that. Differences are complementary. So for people who may think, well, it's new, and actually I'm not so sure because I'm so used to other membership bodies, just like the ACP, UKCP, or whatsoever, there are many others. That doesn't mean that the other membership bodies are bad. It just means that we offer something totally different, and you can join both. It will offer benefits. It will offer another view, and as a coach or as a private practitioner, therapist, counselor, it's really good, I think, to be open-minded, and it's crucial. Actually, it should be part of our way of thinking. And for me, it's the very basics. So actually going for a change and see something new and participating in this change is absolutely rewarding.
Fact.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to pick up for anyone that's kind of watching, the two kind of things that you mentioned in there, the Benevolent Fund and the awards.
Yeah.
So the Benevolent Fund, we are just waiting for the clearance from the bank to open that up so people can start donating into that. The donations will be open to anybody to make a donation straight into the fund, and anyone who goes through the awards program, a portion of their submission fee will also go into that fund. So businesses that are looking at having what they do in the world of mental health for their teams, that want to be recognized for that and celebrated for making those changes above and beyond the baseline, that, you know, the tick box, you know, have we asked everybody if they're okay today? Have, you know, there's so much creativity out there in the business world around protecting mental health in the workplace, and I think that really does need to be encouraged and it needs to be celebrated. So those companies that make submission, a portion of that fee will go into the Benevolent Fund. The awards, yes, part of it will go into the Benevolent Fund, but ultimately what we want to get to is on our birthday to be able to announce, after a members vote, on all of those companies that have already received an ethical and psychological award, who is the best practitioner of mental health in the workplace. Let's have therapeutic professionals actually looking at those companies and saying, do you know what, that's what stands out. That should be the benchmark for the next 12 months. And that will allow smaller companies, other companies, bigger companies to see that and go, we should be aspiring to more. We shouldn't just be accepting what there is. And hopefully we can move the conversation away from awareness and into response around mental health. And the workplace is the safest place for the majority of people.
Yeah, absolutely. We spend a lot of time in the workplace for people who are employers, and that's really part of your mental health on an everyday basis, and that has to be recognized. I wrote a few articles on this on my website that you can find as well, and it's about a few tips. I offer a few tips on mental health in the workplace and how we could change the management side, and how we could offer a purpose to employees, because that there is a lack of validation of the work of the employees, and that is really bad for the company as a whole, because if the employees don't feel validated, well, they're not going to put a lot of effort, which makes sense. So they need to find a purpose, they need to find a meaning to their task, especially in very big, large companies, when there are so many different departments. You feel like you're just one tool, and that is not enough. You're not a tool, you're a human being, and you have to be validated for the work, the tasks you have been asked to do.
And this comes right back to one of the other videos that is on the CPD platform around the whole approach to business, and how businesses can, by adopting a therapeutic process in their business model, they can succeed. And the NCS model is the only representation, put my teeth in, that shows how all of those component parts fit together. And it's something that I think, when we look at the most successful outcomes in businesses that are consistently successful, there will be elements where they're not. And they will have times where they are saying, actually, no, we need to change this, we need to stop, we need to go in a different direction. Virgin being a prime example. I spent an awful lot of time looking at how businesses adapted and interacted with amongst themselves, within themselves, etc. And Virgin comes out consistently as one of the most successful branded companies on the planet. But what most people don't see in that is Richard Branson has over 15 times now pulled a business and said, no, this isn't working within the model that Virgin works to, and therefore we're not going to go down that road. And it's something for any successful business to be able to say, this is taking us away from what we are good at, and the way we work is part of what we're good at, is a phenomenal strength. And I think we see, especially now, with more and more people becoming qualified professionals in the therapeutic sector, diversifying and
absolutely,
to a point where they actually not very good at anything, because they're trying to do everything for every euro, every pound, every dollar that they can get through the door. And I'm not saying that niche working is especially the right way of working, but understanding the self gives you that platform to say, this is what I do, this is the way I do it, and these are my boundaries and these are my frameworks.
Exactly. Crucial.
And that's something that we really need to get into. Certainly the coaching side. And that's again a whole different topic, and we can come back to that in the new year.
Because I was thinking about something as well. Yeah, absolutely.
But for now, I think this has been absolutely phenomenal conversation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it fully. I think we've addressed many different topics and that are crucial actually for everyone, not only therapists or coaches, but actually anyone, employees, individuals, companies, managers, and so because we address topics that really are everyone goes through. That everyone goes through.
And this is the thing. Professionals are human beings. Professionals have the same life challenges as every single client.
Exactly.
And the response to those has got to stay within the professional bounds. And we can look at all of the challenges around professionals being able to vent and everything else. But one of the things that I am exceptionally proud of with everything that has happened within the universe that is APA is that those interactions between members, between non-members, between professionals and non-professionals has been completely ethical, completely professional all the way through. And yes, we can have differences. Yes, we can disagree. But not once has that spilt into any kind of nastiness, any disrespect, anything that a potential client looking at would go, no, thank you. I don't want to see, I don't want to engage with that. And this is where I think APA stands out as a source for potential clients. We don't say come and look at a directory. We say come and look at us. Come and see us.
And it's quite obvious in the open group, I will say. The boundaries are really clear. We post a lot about on the boundaries, and it's people feel safe in the open group, even though it's open. People feel safe, so it's very interesting to see that, to analyze that. And again, it's about going further, accepting challenges, but and changes and differences that help us see things differently and accept our own identity, boundaries.
Yeah.
It's all about really APA. It's about changes in we think, of course, a positive way, in a positive direction, but for everyone, absolutely everyone, professionals, employees, companies, absolutely everyone, within a specific framework, of course, and specific boundaries. And that has to be accepted by everyone. But I really think that by joining APA, it will not only help us to be totally honest. Of course, it will help us because if we grow even bigger, it will be better for each and every one, each and every member. Of course, I'm saying it will be better because we will definitely be able to make this change we are looking for. But by joining us, it's not only joining a membership body, it's also joining, accepting changes, accepting a different view of the coaching and therapeutic communities. It's being able to work internationally, and it's being able to offer your own vision, your own view of specific matters, and see what we can do about it and move forward together. And I think it's really crucial at all the round tables, this interview right now, all of that is, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And we could meet up in London or in Paris if you happen to visit Paris. I will be really happy about that. So really don't hesitate to ask us, because that's our roots, is to share and communicate and reply as fast as we can, of course, to any questions you have.
I'm going to be taking snippets from this interview and putting this out in different chunks over the next few months, but I think I will put out the whole conversation, and I hope people are able to pull up a chair, sit with a cup of tea, and how very English was that? How very sit with a cup of tea and watch these two converse. But I think as long as we're able to kind of share with people that this is the way APA is, this is the way we engage, this is the way we want the world to see counselling and coaching. 1, it's obtainable. 2, it's approachable. 3, it can be fun. You can have a laugh along the way.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not a fight. It's yes, the conversations can be hard, but guess what? When you come through that hard moment, there's invariably a lighter moment on the other side of it. And I am truly grateful for your time, for your support with everything that we're doing, and I am really excited about 2020.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. I think it's going to be a huge year. I do feel it. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
The energy out there is just phenomenal at the moment. And I think we and you, Shelley, Jeff, Alison, Jackie, Siobhan, the entire membership are starting to actually feel that energy building and growing. And I'm going to draw this to a close so people can go put the kettle on and grab another cup of tea. But guys, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Margaret, thank you so much for your time.
It was a pleasure.
This morning.
I was really happy about it.
I'm pretty sure most people will realise that Margaret and I can probably talk forever.
Not good with this boundary.
quite easily, but we also know that what's important to people watching this is that the information that we share is something that can help as many of you as possible. So guys, this is the last one before Christmas. Okay, we're not going to put another video out before Christmas, so this is it. Mouse is already dressed
to you all.
And we really do wish every single one of you, however you celebrate the end of the
Yeah,
year,
exactly.
to have
Absolutely. Hanukkah, Merry Christmas,
all of them,
all of
every
them.
single one. And those that don't celebrate, I hope you have a peaceful time while everyone else is doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
This isn't,
absolutely.
you know, I don't want anybody to feel as though this is some kind of exclusivity. Okay?
No,
Whatever
no,
you're
not
doing
at all.
over the
Absolutely
next
not.
2 weeks, have a fabulous time, guys. And we will see you in the new year with
Yeah,
the Benevolent Fund open for
yeah,
donations. We will have the awards open for submission. We will have the elevated service program up and available, ready to go to help those disadvantaged young people that we're working with Pelling Institute. We will have the renewal memberships coming through already, coming in, but we'll have more coming in January. So it's a fabulous time, and I really hope to see as many of you on the membership side in the
yeah.
new year. Have a great one, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.